Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Innocent Okorach, a student of Good University. Yeah, we are going to continue this channel. Yeah, we were discussing about primary source. So I'm now in this next video for secondary source. So we are going to understand more secondary source. So I've already organized them in a slides. So you can see here a secondary source. So we start by defining secondary source. So secondary source is one that interprets, analyze, interprets, analyze, or summarize primary sources. So it's going to summarize all the primary sources events. So it helps to interpret, summarize, analyze what primary sources all the events. So it's one step removed from the original materials, meaning the material here in secondary source they are no longer like original, like they're kind of interfered. So they're not first hand. Yeah, and often provides a broader perspective or critical insight into the primary data. So they help just to analyze, interpret, and summarize what data of the primary source. So that is the work of secondary source. Now let us move on and see the characteristic of secondary source. On the characteristic, we can see characteristic help to interpret what interpret. It is interpretative. For secondary source, it is interpretative. Then we're having it is evaluative, summary, and then contextual. So it is in this context of it is interpretative. Now in the explanation here, so it is interpretative in a sense that it helps in analyzing what primary sources, analyzing, yeah. So primary sources. So also in evaluative, now it offers what opinion based on what the information internalized from the primary source. So evaluative, now it offers opinion. So it offers opinion based on the evidence that may be what summarized from or analyzed from what primary source. That is the meaning of evaluative. Now summary. In this explanation, in this aspect, it is summarized all the primary sources informations in the summary to make it what more what to make it less bulky. So secondary sources summarize what all the primary to connect all those primary information and summarize them into a more simplified way that can easily be accessed by what by the learners. Now contextual. In this explanation, it helps to frame data in this context with a broader understanding or broader knowledge. So its context will help you to frame data of the primary sources in a broader understanding, in a more detailed information. So those are the characteristics of secondary sources. It is interpretative, evaluative, summary, and then contextual. So let's move on. Let me hope you are paying attention. We go to the another slides. And yeah, we have the examples of the secondary sources. And we are having the first one is book. Those books, those are the example what secondary sources. For instance, history books analyzing certain events that occur in a certain past. So for example, history books. Yeah, also journal articles. This one, for example, lecturers' reviews summarizing previous reports on a certain issue. So for example, journal article. Other in documentaries. Now in this one, for example, films or videos that tells that may tell the stories of historical events. The example of secondary source. And then essays or reviews. We all know essays. So and then we go to purpose. Under purpose, we have contextualization, we have interpretation and analysis, then broader understanding. So under contextualization, we have to provide the necessary context for primary data. So under contextualization, it just provide the necessary context. Now interpretation and analyzing. Secondary sources enable interpreting and analyzing of information in primary sources. So by interpreting, it enables researchers to make comparative analysis of the information they are looking for. And then broader understanding, it enables the researchers to get more detailed information. So secondary sources widen their thinking capacity. So the researchers is going to what? Understand, have a wider knowledge on what? On the information. So those are the what? The purposes of secondary sources. We move to another slide. Let me hope you are following. Now, on secondary sources, we are having roles in research, and then time frame, then what? Reliability. Now, in roles in research, we are having simply are used to support what the primary sources in research. So they help the researchers what to interpret what the primary data. So they're using research to support the primary what information for the primary sources. Yeah. So they help the researchers to interpret what the primary sources of the informations. And then time frame. So under time frame, it is purposely written after the event have occurred, so as to give more time for interpretation and analysis of the data that happen in the primary sources. So it is normally written after the event has already been occurred. So just purposely that time lapse is given to what? For more interpretation and analysis of the data to what? To enable researchers get more detailed information, have broader understanding of what happened. Yeah, so on a time frame, it is what? Normally analyzed after the event have occurred. So let's go to reliability. Now under reliability, we're having the first one is strengths. We're having strengths and challenges. Now under strengths, we're having it can help the researchers to clarify the meaning of the primary sources. That's under reliability. It'll help you clarify the meaning of primary sources. Now under challenges, they can be interfered, like they are once they removed from the original data, meaning the data can be altered by someone. Biasness can result under these secondary sources because anyone can unknowingly can introduce a certain new concept now. So that can result of biasness. So like it is not original. So that is under what reliability. Let us move to the next slide. Let me hope you are keep on following. So example now in various fields. We are having example in various fields here. And now an example in various fields, we're having history, a book analyzed. We're having, for example, in various fields, we're having history. For example, a book analyzing Churchill's speeches and their impact on what? Public moral during the war. So these are example in various fields. For example, in history. And then in science, we're having a research paper analyzing what? Several experiments and drawing conclusions about what? Scientific theory. So those are under various fields. Now under arts, because this one was under science. Now under arts, we're having a document title article discussing what? Van Gogh's techniques and what? The cultural significance of the Starry Night. So example in various fields, we're having under history, we're having example science and then arts. So those are the examples of secondary sources. Their purposes in other fields. So let us look at the advantages and the disadvantages of these secondary sources, and then we conclude. Okay, so we go to the next slide. Here is where we are having pros and the conclusions, and the pros and the cons. So you can say the advantages and the disadvantages of these secondary sources. Now we are starting with advantages. Provide critical analysis. So provide critical analysis and comprehensive overview. So we'll just help you to analyze things critically, to understand, to have a detailed facts of the informations, and also help to connect dots between different pieces of primary evidence. So like for instance, secondary sources connects different primary sources, help analyze and withdraw and draw a final conclusion and summarize all those primary sources. So we help you connect dots between the different pieces of primary evidence. Next is easier to access and understand than raw primary data. Now these secondary sources, they are very easy to access because after analyzing very well, then they are going to summarize for the researcher to easily understand than raw primary data. So these things, they are easily accessed by the researchers because they can be summarized and they can easily be understood because they are written in a simplified way. They can generalize all those information. They interpret. After interpreting, they analyze very well, and then they summarize in a simple way that researchers can understand. So those are the advantages of what? Secondary sources. Now let us look at the disadvantages. One very important disadvantage is that it can increase what? Misunderstanding or biasness. For instance, when someone is over interpreting certain data now, he or she can intentionally add his own thoughts in the information, so leading to biasness. So at times it lead to biasness. So that is one disadvantage, can introduce misunderstanding or biases. So the next is second-hand account. So these secondary sources, they are not first-hand information. The secondary source of information, they are always not first and they are always second-hand. So they lack the immediacy and authenticity of primary sources. So they lack the exact original content of primary sources. So that's all. We are done. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share to my YouTube channel. We meet in our next video to discuss more. Thank you. May God bless you.